Chase Young to the Ravens. It was a hypothetical trade proposed by PFF. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Ravens Media. I do apologize. It's been a little bit since we posted a video. We've been doing the pregame live show, so thank you to everybody coming through to that. Work's been kicking my butt lately. I've been staying after hours a lot, and it's been very difficult to be able to come home and put the videos out in a time that makes sense. Making videos and putting them out at 10 o'clock Eastern time is a little bit difficult because most of you guys are asleep. I work on the West Coast, and so I like to be able to record them right after work. That's what I'm doing today. We're back. I'm going to try and make more of a commitment to be able to be more consistent with it, especially on the weekends, to be able to get you guys more of that content because I miss making content as much as I used to. So don't worry, we're going to get back to it. I apologize. But let's talk about this Chase Young trade. This was proposed by Brad Spielberger from PFF. Now, first off, PFF is not a news source. PFF is not a statistic. PFF is a company that ranks players, and they were founded in Cincinnati, or they were founded in Ohio. They're not my favorite thing. I don't like using PFF rankings very often. Sometimes they do have interesting statistics they put out, where they track certain things, and they'll say, hey, this player leads the league in, passer rating when pressure, or whatever it is. And those I find helpful. But most of the time, PFF rankings, I don't look too much into those. However, I've thought this was an interesting trade proposition. I've seen a lot of Ravens fans, wanting pass rushers, and I've seen a lot of people talking about pass rushers on the market at the trade deadline. I think there's potentially going to be 3. Biggest name, I think, is Danielle Hunter of the Minnesota Vikings. Then obviously Brian Burns of the Carolina Panthers. And then potentially Chase Young will be that final piece of the pass rushers of the last year of their deal that aren't on contending teams, that if they get traded, look at that, they can make a contender the champion. So Chase Young, obviously, is playing pretty close to Baltimore. They said a 3rd round pick and a 3rd round picks, or 2 3rd round picks, one this year, one next year, would be able to get it done. And I think that's relatively fair for the expectation of what you were getting, because with any of the 3 players that I brought up earlier, when you're trading for them, you have to pay them. Chase Young, he is in the 4th year of his contract. He was drafted, obviously, 2nd overall to Joe Burrow, but the Commanders did not opt to use the 5th year option, meaning they were basically banking on the fact that they could potentially franchise tag him, or what they said, sign him to an extension. That's their hope. He's missed games in his career. That has been an issue for him. However, when he's been on the field, he's been a dominant force. He went Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's been a Pro Bowler. He's a very, very good pass rusher. I would probably call him an elite pass rusher at that. Is he on the level of Garrett, Bosa, maybe obviously Watt's nobody's on Watt's level. Micah Parsons, I don't think he's at that level, but I do think he's in that, that top 10 pass rushers, or at least edge rushers in the NFL category. I think he's in that 2nd tier or 3rd tier if you count TJ Watt in his own tier like I do. I think he's right in there. He can absolutely be the number 1 pass rusher on a team, and he's the type of player that I would give an extension to if he was on my team. Now, the negatives of this, you got to pay him, right? You're not giving up, I mean, maybe you do, but most likely you're not giving up 2 3rd round picks to be able to get a guy and let him walk. The Ravens do have a franchise tag. Could they potentially use that? Yes, but that restricts other things. It makes it difficult. Also, the Ravens don't love to franchise tag players. They've done it in the past. Obviously, Lamar, the most recent. But I think with Chase Young, we did it last year, right? We did it with Roquan Smith. We traded for him. We traded a 2nd round pick for a top 3 middle linebacker in the NFL. Now we would all say top 2, but seen as an elite linebacker in the NFL, we paid him. We made him the highest paid ever at that position. Are the Ravens really going to do the exact same thing 2 years in a row? I don't think so. Personally, if I'm looking at it, I would probably go after Brian Burns before I go after Chase Young. Even though I like Chase Young more, I've always been a huge fan of Chase Young's game. Brian Burns has been more available on the field, and personal preference. With that, I think they'd be relatively similar pricing because, again, same draft class. And so they're both up for contract this year. And, both of them are going to be on the trade block. But I think Washington will be less hesitant, or no, they'll be more hesitant to trade Chase Young than the Carolina Panthers would be to Brian Burns, because the Panthers are tanking. Like, they're going to want to get rid of Brian Burns. The Commanders may want to keep Chase Young. So, as much as, I would love to be able to bring in Chase Young, and would it help the team? Absolutely. But this would probably be the most I'd be willing to offer if I'm doing a trade, is 2 third-round picks. Now, maybe I would do a second-round pick and a future fourth. I'd be fine with that. But I'm not trading a first-round pick for any pass rusher, unless we're getting TJ Watt or Micah Parsons, which we're not. I'm not trading a second or a first for any of these guys. So, I don't know what they're going to go for, but this seems kind of right. It's just whether or not they would be willing to even part with them for such a low price. And then, would the Ravens really be willing to go after paying that contract, which Chase Young's going to get a bag? What would the Ravens rather do? Right? I feel like they'd rather sign some of the guys that they have on their roster. I think they like Patrick Queen, who's in a contract year right now, and then Justin Madubuike. We already signed Broderick Washington. How are they going to shore up that front of the defensive line? And then they spent money, or they have high draft pick capital in the pass rushers. David Ojabo, Adolphe Away. Yes, Adolphe's missing time as well as David Ojabo, but Chase Young, if you get him and you extend him, that restricts at least one of those guys, maybe restricts both for how much they're going to be able to be playing, as well as we also have Tyus Bowser. So as much as I like this trade, I would probably make this trade. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, and I don't think it's something that the Ravens have to do. I like this trade because I love Chase Young, and I like when my favorite players are on my favorite team. It makes it more fun to root for him. Chase Young's one of my favorite players. This is about the value I'd be willing to give up. So if it happened, I'd be pretty excited to have Chase Young. I would think it's kind of a solid move. It's a win now move. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's a win now move, and I'd be okay with it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Let me know in the comment section down below your guys' thoughts. Should the Ravens make a trade for Chase Young? If not Chase Young, who? Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more Ravens content, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.